Hi, it's Robin. By popular demand, we'll take another look at the sky travel astronomy software that we used last video to view the big April 8th, 2024 eclipse. As viewer the SimTetu channel pointed out, the fact that it's on a floppy makes it a total eclipse of the cart. In this video, we'll look at all the Easter eggs that are hidden in sky travel. And to make it more interesting, we'll be using this SuperCPU Accelerator to make the Commodore 64 run a lot faster. It'll be fun. I also got lots of questions and feedback about tangential things in the previous video, like the strange noises the floppy drive made while it was loading the program, about JiffyDOS, and about a 2-hour calculation error in the timing of the eclipse. The sky is completely black in the middle of the day, or late morning at least, 11:40 a.m. We'll deal with all of that first, so if you just want to see the Easter eggs, use the chapter index to jump ahead. Now, Atari fans will be glad to learn that this program is available for both the 8-bit Atari and the ST, but it's called Atari Planetarium, still made by the same developer, Deltron. Thanks to Jimbaloidatron for pointing this out. So the SuperCPU is a jumbo-sized Commodore 64 cartridge. I bought this one way back in 1996 when it was a brand new thing. Cost me $200, and I've had a lot of fun with it ever since. It contains a 20 MHz 65816, that's the 16-bit successor to the 6502 or 6510, runs at 20 MHz, so it can be up to 20 times faster than a stock C64, and though not much 16-bit code was written for it, that code could run close to twice as fast as regular 8-bit code in certain cases. Okay, so I plugged it in. And there's the fancy boot screen. Apparently written by Elwix, the same guy who has maintained Turbo Macro Pro for all these years. So not only does the SuperCPU have a faster processor, and mine's been upgraded with 16 megabytes of RAM, but it also includes JiffyDOS, which is the Commodore DOS replacement that provides a faster disk protocol between the computer and the disk drive. And if the disk drive didn't include JiffyDOS originally, like this 1541, this is something I pieced together. You might notice the bottom and the top don't match. It's got this white faceplate that I think is from a 1541C. But many years ago, I installed JiffyDOS in this. And that was back when people just didn't care about the appearance of their devices. At least most people I knew who were still into Commodore computers only cared that they worked. In that pre-YouTube age, we didn't think about restoration or retro bright or any of that business. Did it work? Did we still have fun with it? Yes. If you see a switch on the front of a 1541 like this, or maybe the back, it's usually for one of two things. It might be to choose between device 8 and 9. That was a common modification with a toggle switch. Or in this case, it's for JiffyDOS, which most of the time you would leave on, but once in a while you run into a program that doesn't support JiffyDOS, so you'd want to turn it off. So to find out if a drive has JiffyDOS, just power it up. So I'll do that right now just to make sure. Power cycle it. And then with any command wedge, such as JiffyDOS, even Epic's fast load, super snapshot, whatever, just type in the ampersand symbol and press return. And you'll get a message back from the disk drive. So as you can see, this has JiffyDOS 5.0, the 1541 version, and everything is okay. And if you type that again, you should just get the OK message back. It's only when you first reset or power up a 1541 that gives this boot message. Just to show you what happens, I'll disable JiffyDOS, and you have to power cycle. And just so you can see the boot message, that symbol. And there you can see now it has the stock CBM DOS version 2.6, again for the 1541. But today we'll be using JiffyDOS. Okay, so let's try starting up Sky Travel with JiffyDOS this time. Normally you would load *COM8, 1, But with JiffyDOS, we can just do a percentage sign and an asterisk. And here it goes. We'll let it load. There we go, some head banging. Okay, so I got a lot of comments about that head banging, thinking there was something wrong with my disk drive or the disk, even though it loaded okay. So here it goes. So actually, we'll see that this is totally normal for this disk. This is just a copy protection scheme. And it just bangs the head 3 times. And what it's doing is these Commodore drives don't have a track 0 or track 1 indicator. So what they do is they physically bang the head, the read-write head, up against the edge. Actually, see how much quicker this loads than last time. There we go. Starting up. Welcome to Sky Travel. Okay, so we're not going to do a stopwatch or anything, but I timed that before 59 seconds to boot with JiffyDOS. And it was 2.5 minutes almost exactly without JiffyDOS. So what is that? 60% faster, 40% of the time. Pretty good, not huge. But I think a fair bit of the time is wasted on that copy protection scheme. Before we get to Sky Travel here, I just want to show one other thing. Just need to power cycle. So just to show that that head bumping is normal operation for this, JiffyDOS includes a feature to disable that kind of head banging. And it won't work with all programs, but many it will. So just go @B, and that means bump disable. That is, prevent the drive head from bumping repeatedly. And now we'll just go %*, and we'll load like normal. And we should find that the game boots as before, but all that noise and all that head banging is skipped. Now, it's not smart enough to completely skip all the protection checks that are being done here. So it doesn't massively speed up the program, but it does cut about 7 or 8 seconds off the load time, reducing it down. I think it was to about 52 seconds when I timed it. And it completely eliminates all that banging. There we are. Welcome to Sky Travel. Okay, one thing to cover in Sky Travel before we get to those new Easter eggs. Several sharp-eyed viewers on the last eclipse video noticed that the eclipse timing on April 8th wasn't quite right. There was actually a 2-hour error. So what's the deal with that? Does that just mean that the calculations over a 40-year period from the time this program were made have drifted off by 2 hours? Some people felt that was, acceptable, but actually that's not the case. 1 hour is because of daylight saving time. Now, Sky Travel doesn't account for daylight saving time at all. I suppose they could have added an optional manual control for that, but they didn't. But if you think about it, implementing an automatic daylight saving would be essentially impossible. First of all, much of the world doesn't actually do daylight saving. That's something that only certain countries do. And even then, the time period where daylight saving is observed has changed over time, and even some particular geographic locations opt in and out over time. In the US, Arizona doesn't follow it, and here in Canada, Saskatchewan doesn't. And Mexico has changed its stance over time as well. Okay, so 1 hour is due to daylight saving. Well, if we go here to the map, by the way, you'll see that this loads in about 6 seconds now compared to 24 seconds without JiffyDOS. As I move the longitude with the cursor left and right keys, which actually is moving very quick due to the Super CPU, the time zone changes. And here in the middle of the world is time zone 0. And what Sky Travel does is a very straightforward time zone implementation, kind of an ideal time zone. If you take 360 degrees around the Earth and split that up into 24 time zones of 1 hour each, the math works out 360 divided by 24 is 15 degrees. So basically, you have time zone 0 for 7.5 degrees on either side of here is longitude 0. And you see if we move to the right past 7 degrees, we've gone to time zone -1. Note that the time zone numbering is a little different than on the real world, where we talk about GMT most of the time, where the times are actually negative this direction, positive. This does the opposite, but it's okay. Anyway, what happens is every 15 degrees around the Earth, we're in another time zone. So 3, 4, and here we're in time zone 5. And now there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but what happens is lots of countries actually extend their time zones far past the true or ideal time zone. For example, Eastern time, if I move the cursor all the way up to here, this is near where I live in Thunder Bay, Ontario. See, it says I'm in time zone 6, but really I'm in Eastern time, which is 5. And because of daylight saving, we're in time zone 4 right now during the North American summer. So that's why we had a 2-hour error. Okay, so I actually spent a long time trying to find a place that would give the correct results in sky travel for the eclipse. And I finally found a place that worked out pretty well. So if we go to latitude 3141, actually going to switch down to 1 megahertz mode just to get this exactly right. 42 is good enough. And 109. Okay, so this more or less marks Apache, Arizona, which is like a ghost town in southeast Arizona. I chose the spot because Arizona doesn't follow daylight saving time, and this is about as close to the 2024 eclipse path as I could get within Arizona. Okay, now we need to set the time. So we're going to go to April 8, 2024, and we're going to go to 10:15 a.m. Okay, so you see we're in time zone 7, and that's where Arizona is, and not 6 because of daylight saving. Okay, let's view the sky. Computing the moon, sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, so you can see how much faster it's processing all this. Okay, and let's find the moon. There it is. Actually, you can scroll around. You can see how quickly you can scroll around the sky. Switch back down 1 megahertz. If you want to see how slow the scrolling is without the super CPU. It says slewing down at the bottom. Computing. Slewing. Computing. Okay, there. So here you go. Pretty incredible, eh? So it makes a huge difference for math-intensive programs like this. Right, so what we're going to do is start the time scale, and we'll go all the way up to, say, 32. I'm going to find the moon again. And now we're going to watch the eclipse from this spot. So now instead of being in Texas, we're in Arizona. And the midpoint of the eclipse is apparently 11:21 or 11:22 a.m. I looked that up on a website. So if you check how close the accuracy is here, see that the eclipse is already starting. We've got the wide field of view here. So that's the most CPU intensive version of it. And we can leave all that on with the super CPU. And the time scale's going along. Now, it's not updating all the time, and that's because it seems that Sky Travel has a built-in limit for how often it will refresh the screen. Probably that was implemented because of the slower CPU, and they just had to, I guess, give a little bit of time for user input between updates, and that was the way of implementing that. That'd be interesting. Maybe somebody who knows how to program could rewrite, or not rewrite, but, adjust sky travel. Okay, anyway, we're looking for the midpoint. Now, we're not going to get totality in this position, Arizona, but we should get up to somewhere around 80% coverage. All right, so it's gotten pretty close here. But the important thing to note here is that we're told that the midpoint, the largest amount of eclipsing, is going to happen at 11:22 or so. And you can see here we're totally on schedule. So probably the next update will be there. Okay, so yeah, it looks like we're past the midpoint. So that was probably about an 80% cover. Oh, there. That's it, I think. And now you see it's starting to wane, or whatever the word is, after the midpoint of the eclipse. So we got about 80% coverage, and the time was almost exactly right. It might be off by a few minutes. I think this has a resolution of about 5 minutes, plus or minus anyway. If it bothers you that this doesn't implement daylight saving or time zones according to the real world, this program covers 20,000 years. For most of history, we have not had daylight saving time, and in fact, the first place to ever implement it was here in my hometown of Thunder Bay back in 1908, though it was back when we were actually two towns. It was the north end of town called Port Arthur that first implemented daylight saving. And then, of course, I think Germany was the first country to implement it as a whole country. But Thunder Bay was the first place to do it just locally. And for most of history, we haven't had politically regulated time zones. The idea of 24 time zones, each corresponding to 1 hour, 15 degrees of longitude each, was really only proposed in the mid to late 1800s and was just gradually adopted into the 1900s, but each country did it their own way. Sometimes a whole country, which would span multiple time zones, would just implement it as a single time zone for the whole country. So it's really something that's beyond a non-internet connected program that loads into a 64K computer from a single floppy disk. Really, we cannot expect more than what this program does, except perhaps some extra manual controls to cover this. But both daylight saving time and time zones, in a sense, are just a human-made thing that we're so used to that we think of it as absolute truth, when in fact it's just, it's a thing we do. A more true thing is solar time, which civilization used to use, which would be, the old stick in the ground kind of thing, and they would just measure time from the sun being at the highest point in the sky for that particular location. Okay, we'll take it back down to 0, and let's load up the map again. Okay, so I've covered everything from all those comments that we got from the last video. Thank you for your comments and your curiosity. So the last thing we're going to do today is look at the Easter eggs hidden in this program. So there are 11 map tokens that can be discovered only by standing at the right place on Earth in this program in the correct year or range of years and looking in the right direction. Commodore Powerplay magazine ran a series of clues about these in 1985. All the clues are about bears, even though only one of the tokens, or Easter eggs, is a bear. I guess the bear might be visiting all these other spots. I don't know. So I'm just going to say the clues and see if you can guess them correctly. An alert person should have no trouble finding the bear. The alert person likely resides in an igloo. Bear looks due east. and sees green land. So we've gone to this location, and we're going to look at the sky, and we're going to look north. And there we go. So these are the tokens. There is a little polar bear drawn there on the horizon. So that's what these Easter eggs are. Instead of all these regular shapes up here, like, these different constellations and so on, there's these extra constellations that look like the things. So that's what the Easter egg hunt is. The polar bear is the first one, and somehow all the clues are written from the perspective of this polar bear who really gets around. We'll go to the map. Here's the next clue. Stated empirically, if the bear really exists, he gets top billing. When bear reaches top billing, he detects the odor of gorilla. The bear also loves large apples. This is a relatively easy one. And we'll view the sky from around New York. Okay, and let's look S to look south. And there we go. And if you guessed the Empire State Building, you were correct. Clue 3. See an angry bear, not one but two, on tour, climb high, higher, highest, with no visible means of support. Away it gives, two on tour. Not far away is Niagara Falls. Not far away here, around Toronto. I'll view the sky, and we will look south and slew west. Oh no, that's southeast. Oh, there it is. Duh, I don't know east from west. Okay, and if you guess the CN Tower in Toronto, you are correct. Clue 4. Hungry bear, but a half-wit, looks for hamburgers, is disappointed, but we're not, are we? The bear sees half of a familiar-looking landmark in the distance. Think of 1 billion hamburgers. We'll view the sky, and we will look north. And there it is. That is the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, which I suppose reminds the clue writers of McDonald's. Clue 5. Guilty bear is fugitive, is chased by Canadian police force. The bear may be in Canada, but the Mountie is not. Most of these Easter eggs are rather US-centric. I'm sorry, fugitive should have been spelled fugitive. And we will view the sky. And there it is. That is Mount Fuji. Maybe I should be turning off some of the, there, turn the lines off. There we go. Clue 6. How do you expect to find the bear if you are looking for a mosque? Look for a mosque? How would you do that? Yet, stop looking for a mosque. Some of these clues are kind of terrible, eh? Okay, and we're going somewhere around Moscow. And we're viewing the sky, and we'll look north. Now here's the interesting thing. Nothing seems to appear. So for whatever reason, they've decided that this Easter egg only exists in the years, so it's not just location and direction, but it's also a year range. This place, they only had listed from 1555 AD to 2001 AD. I don't know why. So because we're in 2024, it's not there. So what we have to do is actually set the clock. And if we roll back to, say, the year 2000, and then we view the sky, there, it just appears. That is it St. Basil Cathedral, St. Basil Cathedral in Moscow. So I don't know what they were implying to think that this wouldn't exist past the year 2001. Of course, they did that back in 1984. Kind of a raid over Moscow mindset there. Uh-oh. Getting political. Moving on. Next clue. Don't cross this one off because, although suspenseful, you have to wait until the bear comes to it. Bear finds gold by figuring out what it is that he shouldn't cross before coming to it. Bear left his heart there. Okay, we'll view the sky. And we will look west. And there is the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Hello, San Francisco. Next clue. Betsy says, Jim, go in and get my pen, and don't worry about the bear. Betsy is the Betsy. Her husband has been knighted. Not a nice place to visit, nothing to see but white, nor would you want to live there, too cold. Okay, so we are going to view this and look south. But there's nothing there. Okay, so I looked this up. This is supposedly in Sir James Ross, or James Ross, Antarctica. And now the clue's really weird. James Ross joined the British Navy, get this, when he was 11, and he was already seeing combat in the Napoleonic Wars when he was 12. That's James Ross. Betsy Ross, I believe they're talking about, this is an American woman who is famous for having made or designed one of the earliest U.S. flags, though it seems most historians don't think she actually did that. Betsy Ross and James Ross were never married. Betsy Ross is born 48 years before James Ross, and I don't believe they even ever met or anything like that. So I don't know why the clue is just because the Ross name. Anyway, if we view the map, these are the coordinates given in the clue of 68 degrees south. I looked up James Ross, the actual place, and it's at minus 64 degrees. And instead of 56 degrees, it's at 57 degrees. Let's see if we can find it now. And there it is. Yes, it's a giant penguin on the horizon in Antarctica. Next clue, bear goes 200 steps north, 200 steps east, 200 steps south, 200 steps west. What color is the bear? Bear would be better off if he were a camel. Tell bear, turn right, peer amid the wall, look for an opening. Yep, there in Egypt. We'll view the sky, and we will look north. And yes, it's the pyramid at Giza, Egypt. I guess the Great Pyramid? I don't know. Next clue, bear has party, gets plastered in style. Plaster is dehydrated calcium sulfate. I fell off this tower once. Yeah, here in France. France. You know how good my French is. And let's look south. Okay, it's not there. Oh, did I do something wrong? I think let's try going back down to 1989. Nope, still not there. Maybe I was too sloppy with the coordinates. I'm going to view the map again. There. Oh, there it is. Yeah, as you might have guessed, it's the Eiffel Tower. Okay, here's the final one. Well, the final bear one anyway. The bear may be gentle, but he's still pretty big, so watch out. Green witch casts spell on bear by saying bong bong. Bear can't see what time it is, too foggy here. And there we go. Yeah, we're in England, roughly. We'll look at the sky here. And we will look south. And there it is. It is Big Ben in London, England. Okay, so that's all those Easter eggs. There is one more I've never seen anybody mention. And without a super CPU, it would be a pain to look at this one. But if you slew down like this, and you just keep looking down, look way down. There. Those are your feet and your legs. Good thing you're wearing pants. Here, I'm going to turn off some of the other things here. Turn off the names. And the symbols, too. Okay, so it's just kind of further enforcing this first-person thing. Is this the first 3D... It's not quite a game, but the first 3D program to render or attempt to render your feet when you look down like that. Oh yeah, looking at the nadir. That nadir is the point on the celestial sphere directly below an observer. That's us. And that would take forever to scroll down to with a stock C64. Here we're at the horizon. Want to try that? We're down to 1 megahertz. Here we go. We can do it. Slewing. Well, of course, it's a little bit faster now that we turned off all the options. Oh, computing. There we go. That's more like it. I hope you had fun with that. That was a sprawling episode covering a bunch of little things. Thank you to my patrons for their support. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.